Hey guys, welcome back. In this series, we're making improvements to an app that I built called HorrorVerse, which is a scary movie discovery engine. It lets you build watch lists, it lets you discover new movies, it lets you read reviews, etc. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can rate movies, all of the good things. It helps answer the question, what is a scary movie that I could watch that scratches just the right itch? But today, we're not talking about scary movies, we're talking about code. We're going to be writing code to make some improvements. In the first part of this series, or whatever you want to call this thing, we updated our mobile filter list so that it allowed us to filter titles by platform that they are streaming on, what they're available on. And that looks like this. I'll show you. We built this little menu that comes out. You can select any platforms you want, and it'll take your watch list and it'll filter it by that. We can clear those filters. In this episode, brought to you by Tetheros, we are going to update the appearance of our watch list, as well as the sorting ability of our watch, which you can't sort it right now, but we want to be able to sort it by a few things. By rating, we want to be able to sort it by the date that you added it, and maybe we want to sort it by alphabetical, I suppose. Those kinds of things, or release date. How about release date instead of alphabetical? So we're going to sort it by those three different things, and we're going to improve the appearance of it to be a little less jarring. You see this. It's a dark mode app, but we got this light mode list, and it is not good on the eyes. So let's hop in. This is for our authenticated mobile experience that we're going to be doing this. Let's first update our filter menu so that we can not only filter here, we can sort items here. So we'll add some things. We're going to use Cursor AI as our IDE today to make some of these improvements. We'll do some things by hand as necessary, because we don't need AI to do literally everything for us. I do know what I'm doing, I promise. But I am kind of lazy, and I do love automating this stuff. So we're going to see if we can knock this out in 15, 20 minutes or so. If you're not here for code, then this is a good time to scram, because this is going to be pretty in the weeds with that. Let's get started, right? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is provide some context to Cursor. In the Composer menu, I'm going to have it just kind of look at our code, get an understanding of what we're doing here. I don't assume too much about what it indexes or what it knows or what it looks at. I like to get it really contextually honed in, locked in, right in the area of the app that we're working. So we're working in a place here. Let's just take a look. Where are we right now? If I inspect one of the classes that we're using here, mobile filter header, and I take this class and I try to find it, it looks like everything we're doing is going to be in mobile user list. That's the component that's presenting most of this information here. And our styles are going to be in userlists.css. So let's start there. So I'll close out some of these let's close others and open this up. So I'm going to say, hey Cursor, let's take a look at, review the code that we have in these two components in the CSS file, get an understanding of it, and then we'll start and we'll get to work. So please review the structure, style, and mechanisms in mobile user list, as well as the style, conventions, and structures used in user lists.css. I think there's another CSS file that we're using here. If we take a look, user list.css. So we'll say and user list.css. Then make the following changes. Now this filter menu probably should be its own component, but it's baked right into this mobile user list component, and that's okay. I mean, it's not perfect practice of code, but that's not what we're here for. We like working code over perfect code. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me as much. As long as it's maintainable, we can deal with it, which we're about to find out. So make the following changes. In the filter menu that appears, instead of having all of the options exist as a pure filter menu, split the menu into two sections. We'll add another line here. The first section, is the filter section, which contains all of the existing options and functionality. The second section will be the sorting section. For now, leave it blank. For now, leave it empty and non-functional. We will add that to a later step. We're going to have it just redesign the appearance of this first, and then in the main part of the mobile user list, we'll build out the sorting mechanism. That way we can actually build a menu on top of that sorting mechanism, if that makes sense. We can't give it all the options to sort if we don't have something underneath that actually does the sorting. So we're going to build one construct at a time here. Probably should have started with the sorting. We're going to start with the menu, because that will kind of make it feel fun and we can just kind of build up upon it. Okay, separate both sections with a HR element. Title the overall modal as watch list options. We'll just call it that for now. And let's see what cursor gets up to. So the way cursor works is it's going to look over our code and then it's going to provide us a diff, a set of differences between what we have right now and what it's proposing we do. And at this point in time, I typically like to review that diff rather than accept it and deal with it. I call it like a mini code review. So if we take a look at what it's proposing here in mobile user list, we scroll all the way down, we can see exactly what it's trying to get rid of. And I'll make this a little bigger. The first thing it's trying to show us is it's going to change our header with watch list options, just like we said. Right, today it says filter by streaming service, which we're going to integrate that inside of it deeper. And it now has inside of the content panel, it creates a section title, filter, it's got all the existing options. There's the divider that we asked for, and then the next section, which we don't have anything in it, so it just leaves a comment right there. And that's all we have there. If we look at the styles, we can see that it's proposing a few changes. There's a little bit of a padding change there and there, here, but the meat of it is down in this stuff. So the sections that it's creating, it's going to add a padding of 20 pixels to the top and the bottom, and then 0 to the left and right, which is probably good. We'll see what it looks like, and then we'll make any adjustments that we feel need to be made there. So I'll accept this. Let's do this for fun. I will do this. We'll actually have our, accept it. And now we have watch list options, filter, sort. That looks pretty good. That could get a little out of hand if there's a lot of things to filter. So we will later come back and we'll kind of refine that. We'll probably put sorting on top, since that's going to be a fixed list, like there's only so many ways to sort. And the filter will have, we'll place that on the bottom. Yeah, and there's a few ways that we could probably do this to be a little more friendly from a UI convention, because you see there's some options that aren't like the others. All streaming or not available for streaming. Those are two competing interests in a way, or they're different because they're not like filtering a specific platform. So maybe we'll create a third section that's like a subsection. I don't know. We'll kind of get to that. So let's hit apply. Let's work on our next change, which is the ability to sort. Now I'm going to, because this is bothering me, we have a few icons that we're not using, so I'll just get rid of those and rebuild that. No wasted code. Okay, next I would like you to build a set of different ways we can sort the titles that exist that are presented. This sorting mechanism will apply to both the non-filtered items and the filtered items. When the logic is applied, first apply the filter if there is any, then apply the sorting logic. The reason is the sorting logic is going to have to compare a lot of different items. The filtering is also going to have to run through everything, but I think that it'll be more efficient to sort something after we've filtered it. So if we said, hey, we want to organize this massive array of strings and we want only things that start with the letter S, we could just already count out everything that doesn't start with S, and then alphabetizing the things that start with S is a lot easier when there's only S things left. We don't want it to sort alphabetically all of those things that aren't even relevant afterwards. And now I'm thinking like massive scale. Like on the scale of what we're talking here, watch lists, they're probably not gonna be too long. Some people might get carried away and have a few hundred, because this is all being rendered client side. That's not even gonna be too big of an ask. But I'd like to prepare ourselves for the apocalypse of someone who has, hundreds of thousands of titles. Just a best practice of mine. And I know that's unlikely to happen, but that's how we'll do it. So we'll say when the logic is applied, first apply the filter. If there is any, then apply the sorting logic. Okay. For the methods of sorting available, please default to the, do we want release date? Let's put a default of the, default to when the title was added to the watch list. The other options that will eventually be available are, and we're gonna have to tell it exactly what we mean with the sorting thing, because we aren't building the menu yet, but we want to build the mechanism inside that allows us to do it. So we're gonna actually get a little more detailed with how we tell Cursor to do this, and tell it that we want a state variable to define the sorting mechanism. When we have that state variable and we fix it to a list of like values that we don't want, that we want it to be only, then we can build that menu that manipulates that state variable. That'll make some more sense in a little bit if it doesn't already. So the other options that will eventually be available are release date of the title, alphabetical. Did we say anything else? How else would you want a rating? Average user rating. Yes, I think that is it. So to find each of these, understand that data model for each title matches the following structure. So we're gonna do a little debugging here to see what it looks like. I realize I sit with my shoulders up when I'm doing this. A little exciting. Matches the following structure. So pause on that. Here we're going to go to our console. And then let's have our user list just, we'll just console log it. We'll take a look at it, and then we can provide that structure to Cursor. So each title has this, it has an added at, average user rating, expires at, is in list, movie details, notes, title. So we need to tell it, hey, for sorting, when we say by the name, we're going to go say look in movie details.title, right? Or for the average user rating, we want it to be this average user rating here. I think some of them aren't defined, and that means that we have to go into movie details and find the vote average. So we'll actually affix it to the vote average rather than the average user rating. And there's a little bit of modeling that we'll have to do on the back end to normalize that, but we won't worry about that right now. So let's take this, let's say we'll copy this object. Let's open up a notepad, notepad here. We don't need any of this stuff. We'll just put that down there. Okay, so we have it here. Oof, a lot of information inside of this one. So every title is going to have this. And actually, let's pull this over to here. So we'll create a new text file. We'll do this. It's already defined it as JSON, which lets us deal with some of the nonsense. Okay. All right, so then we're going to essentially, we'll give it this as an option. And I'm just going to, because this will be an example structure of the data, I'm going to get rid of a lot of this stuff inside of this that don't matter for what we're asking. So watch providers will just keep empty, cast will keep empty, genres will keep empty. We just don't need to give it all of this stuff. Okay. All right, so matches the following structure. We'll give it this, paste. release date of the title is going to be the when is the release date. So movie details dot release date, release underscore date. Alphabetical would be movie details dot title. And then the average user rating will be movie details dot vote underscore average. Okay. First, please create a state variable to define the selected sorting mechanism, a string, with a default value of, and what do we say we want the default to be? Added to the watch list, which we didn't tell it what that is. It should know, but we'll say that's added at. I hope it picks up on what we're getting at with that. We'll see. With the default value of added at, when this state value changes, update the list of titles visible. Update the, let's figure out what it's actually called in here. I think it's gonna be sort user list. You see how, okay, so take a look at this. It's already doing this today. It is sorting it by the added at date of both, because those are always defined. So we're actually going to be updating this. When this state variable changes, run the sort user list function in, and I'm just going to give it some context here, mobile user list to according to the selected sort order. Right now, the function always sorts by added at. After this change, the function will sort by the defined property from above. Let's do that. Technically, nothing should change on the UI, like what we're looking at right now, because we haven't told it how we want to actually manipulate that change. So this should appear the way that the same now after it makes this change, but we should have the capabilities. See this? The sort user list function has now been updated by added at, release date, title, and vote average. So you can see it's going into movie details and it's looking for that. That little question mark is like, if that property is not defined, then just we'll skip to this empty string here. Okay, I'm just kind of peeking at what we got here. Release date, vote average. Okay, it's going to default to 0 with both of them. And then defaulting completely to the added at property from before. So that's pretty good. I think that's actually going to work pretty well. But let's see what it tells us. Adds a new state variable, selected by. Okay. Selected sort by. We don't have anything to set selected sort by yet. We knew that. And it defaults it to added at. Okay, use memo to memoize. I don't even really know how to say that. The sorted list based on both the filter list and the sort type. Okay, you can see these are the changes from earlier. And then here's the sorted list .map, which has the filtered list. The sorting function now handles all 4 sorting methods while maintaining the existing functionality. Each sort method includes fallback. Okay. Would you like me to proceed with adding the UI elements for selecting the sort method in the sort section of the filter panel? Cursor's already ahead of us. Let's accept all. See if anything goes wrong. Yep, completely went wrong. Okay, filtered user list was used before it was defined. Okay. Let's just give it this error message here, which I find is easier to grab from the console when you just want to copy something. Let's have it fix this, and then we'll have it proceed with that. First, please fix the following error that occurred when the client recompiled. We could debug this. It could take us a while, but Cursor is probably going to figure it out almost right away. Most of the time. If not, we'll have to get our hands dirty and take a look at what's going on here. Okay, the error occurred. It figured out we were trying to use it in the sorted list memo before filtered use list was defined. By reordering the declarations, we ensure that all dependencies are properly initialized for the use. That makes total sense. You usually can't use any variables or functions until they've been defined. There's some weird stuff that happens depending on how it gets hoisted up and around, but boom, look, beautiful. So no issues. You can see this added is when we added it to the watch list, 11.16, 10.7, 10.7, 10.7, 9.17. So added at is still taking over. So yes, now proceed to add the different options to the, well, we still have this called filter, but we'll go to the watch list options menu inside the sort section. Let's just see what it does. I have no idea what it's going to do. Should match the styles, should hopefully look the same. That would be ideal. Otherwise, we'll have it do that. Slow. It is after working hours, and Cursor typically gets a lot more traffic after working hours. So we could be hitting other people running them side hustles. Okay. There was a small hiccup, paused it, but it has figured it out. So it's adding this sort options variable here, and presumably it's going to add a bunch of junk to our menu, which we can see here. So here's the, it's going to map through these options and add all of those as input. So let's accept and see what it looks like. Ah, and it is not a select, it's a radio, right? Because it's only one option. And I kind of want to redesign this to use an icon for this selection, because the radio, I mean, it's red, it looks fine, but it's kind of ugly. I'd almost rather either have the whole bar turn red for it to be selected that way. So let's just make sure it works first before we start changing random stuff. So release date. I don't even know how we're going to tell. Let's see. What do we know? Date added. Apply. Okay. Heretic, legend, zombies. Alphabetical. Title A to Z. HHILOT. I guess that is T. TL. So that works. For some reason, the release date just didn't seem right. Right, because this doesn't even have a release date. 2011, these years, 2024, 2024. Is the release date that's coming through, if we take a look at this, it is the proper date. Let's take a look at how it's doing that by hand, because I don't think that's right. So date A is going to compare A.movie details. Let's take a look at this over here. A.movie details, yep, dot release underscore date. Dot release underscore date, okay. Okay, let's just do a little debugging here. Let's say, and I know this could get a little out of hand, but let's just see what date A is coming up as, and let's see what date B is coming up as. Should be the same thing, but okay. So we'll put this over here. Okay, it is comparing them, right? So these are the right dates. These are probably the right dates, except that says 1969. Oh no, I think that's right. I think Ouija, oh, maybe not. Where's that coming from? 2013, do we have anything from 2013? The Conjuring. 2024, we have plenty of that. 1969 though, which one is that? Ah, it's probably this guy. See, this guy doesn't have a release date. It might be effing everything up. So let's take a look at that. It's 2024, 2022. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to be lazy. We could like sit here and debug all this stuff, but we're going to use another feature of cursor, which is this. I highlighted everything and press Control K on Windows. And this is like almost like a Chat GPT or a Claude like interface that's just a separate request that doesn't take into account much context. And I'm going to say, make sure the sorting method used here is properly comparing dates. We're going to have it use a proper library instead of that. And we're going to have it use, I think we have a library that we're already using in this project. Let's take a look in our package.json. We do have date FNS. I freaking love this package. But let's go back and we'll say, hey, use the date FNS library to handle this. Don't assume that release date is defined. If that is the case, it should be treated as older or newer. Newer, or we'll say as more recent than whatever it is being compared to. Okay. Submit edit. Now it's going to just really do everything right here. We're going to have to bring in this library in order to work. Unless it did it up here. It did not. So we need this this function right here, compare descending. And we're going to bring that in ourselves. So we're going to say import compare descending from date FNS. Date functions, I think that stands for. I've never wondered about that until just now. Fun. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. Could just break everything, that's fine. Okay, release date, apply. Newer 2024, 2024, 2023, 2022, 2013, 2011. Okay, I would like to be able to reverse that release date. So now add 2 additional sorting features. Reverse title, we'll call that Z to A, and reverse release date, older first. That's all we're going to tell it. And we're going to have it just kind of go from there and build out that mechanism on its own. And then we'll tinker around with some of the other options here. Okay, so you see it gave it these other codes. It's going to add, that's what we had today. It continued to use compare descending, but it switched A and B. You can see A is first and B is first here. And the titles are there. So accept all. Let's see how it handled that in the menu. Release date newest. Okay, release date, oops. Release date oldest. Release date oldest. Yep. And then title Z-Day. Oh, money. Looks good. Looks real good. So we want to change a few things. We don't want this to say filter anymore. So where does that show up here? Filter. Oh boy. Full word, please. Match whole word. 26 of them still. 1 out of 2. There we go. So we'll call this watch list options. If you can think of a better name, leave me a comment. I would love to know what we really should be calling this. We'll call that watch list options. And then we'll flip the sort and filter with each other. So we have sort here, whoop, and then we have filter here inside that section. So I'm just gonna cut that. Actually, okay, we'll leave the divider there. We'll paste this here. And then we'll paste this bad boy right here. Yeah. A lot of indents. Holy smokes. Okay, so that puts our sorting first and our filtering second. And filter, we want to say filter, we'll just say streaming options. And we'll call this sort by. Okay, I like that. That works. That looks pretty good. One other thing I want to change is that you can see when we flip between these two views, this is unrelated to the filtering menu, we have, it should be that the colors are kind of like awkwardly wrong. So let's just fix that real quick. So button, nav, hover, opacity, active should be, is apparently this color. Oh, that's the border. Is this color. Which one is what? Who's getting the EF, EF, EF? Oh, that's going to get everybody. All right, let's just take a look at it this way. Nav button active. That looks pretty light to me. But this one right now is not active. It is active, but it has an opacity. That's the problem. On mobile, because, okay, get this. On mobile, we have the weird effect, like this wouldn't happen on your phone, I don't think. But if you click this, it kind of acts like it's hovering, even though it's not. So this is a false bug, I think. I'm gonna ignore it for now. We'll leave our watch list options here. I think we'll call that good. We'll complete the story there. We'll add our commit, and then at some point in the future, we'll buzz it up. That's all we have for this episode. If you learned something, I hope you learned something. If not, if you have any questions or comments or ideas for HorrorVerse or my setup here, let me know. Leave a comment below, and we'll get to it when we get to it. Take care. Bye-bye.